Primary school. Over the next few videos, I'm going to talk a little about how the English education system is structured. Today, I'm going to talk about primary education, which is education for children up to the age of 11. In other videos, I'll talk about secondary education, which students receive when they are 11 to 16, and post-16 education. It is important to note that in the United Kingdom, the education system is devolved, which means it is controlled separately in each of the 4 countries of the UK. I'm only looking at the English system today. There are differences in how education is run in Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. The earliest form of education in England is nursery. This is not compulsory, but all 3- and 4-year-olds are entitled to attend nursery for half a day, 5 days a week, for free. Some nurseries are part of larger primary schools and others stand alone. Some nurseries also offer childcare for longer or additional hours, and some also care for younger children. In nursery, most of the learning occurs through play, and early phonics, counting, and writing skills are taught. Children are able to interact with others their own age to develop social skills, and they also learn how to follow simple rules. In England, the new school year starts in September. Children are grouped in year groups based on the school year they were born in, not the calendar year. So each year group contains children born in 2 calendar years. Children born between September and December of one year share classes with children born from January to August of the following year. The oldest children in a class will be born in September, while those born in June, July, and August will be some of the youngest in their year group. All children start primary school at the start of the school year. Children are required to attend school from the September before they turn 5, so all students start school between their 4th and 5th birthday. Students will be in the same class with the same teacher for a whole year. Students advance years and change classes in September. The school year is made up of 3 terms. There are longer holidays between each term and a shorter holiday in the middle. The autumn term runs from the start of the school year in September until December, with 1 or, in some areas, 2 weeks off school in October. Then, students have 2 weeks off school for the Christmas holidays, which always cover Christmas and New Year. The spring term runs from January to April, with 1 week off in February. Between the spring and summer term, students have 2 weeks off for the Easter holiday. Finally, the summer term runs from April or May until mid-June, with a week's holiday in late May. Between the school years, children have the long 6-week holiday, where there is no school for approximately 6 weeks from mid-July to the beginning of September. Primary school is split into 2 parts, infants and juniors. While most schools are primary schools with both infants and juniors, separate infant and junior schools also exist. Infants includes the first 3 years of school, which are called reception, year 1, and year 2. Juniors is made up of the last 4 years of primary school. Years 3, 4, 5 and 6. Classes are generally grouped by year, and most schools will have 1 or 2 classes per year. However, in larger schools, there can be more class groups. In smaller schools, or if there aren't enough students to fill a class, children can be taught in mixed classes with the year above or below. For example, a class may contain a mix of Year 3 and Year 4 children. Usually, students stay in the same class group throughout the whole day. Students in primary schools do not regularly sit exams, tests, or formal assessments. Instead, students are set individual targets, and their overall progress is assessed by the teacher looking at all of their schoolwork. Students do not receive letter grades. Instead, they receive a written report describing their learning once a year. Where students are compared to a grading scale, this is a number-based scale used across all year groups. Younger children are generally expected to be working at lower levels, with the levels increasing as children get older. Students only take exams twice in primary school, once at the end of Year 2 and once at the end of Year 6. These are called SATs. Students receive a grade in each subject on the level system. However, these exams do not affect students very much. They are mainly used to assess how effective the schools and teachers are. Children are not expected to achieve a certain grade to progress to the next year level. Instead, they always move through the year groups based on age only. The only exception is where children move from another country. In this case, they are sometimes placed in a different year group to help them while they learn English, or to account for differences in the school system where they lived in the past. In England, primary school students are taught most of the time by the same teacher in the same classroom. Students may move classrooms for subjects that require extra equipment or space, such as ICT, which uses computers, or physical education. In some schools, subjects such as foreign languages or music may also be taught by a different teacher. Because students move through years based on age, primary school classes contain students with mixed abilities. As a result, at any one time, different children in the classroom may be working on slightly different activities to suit their needs. This is called differentiation. Schools in England all follow a similar structure for the school day. The school day starts and ends at the same time each day, although the exact time varies between schools. Primary school usually starts between 8:30 and 9:30 in the morning and runs until between 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. In the morning, children study English for an hour and maths for an hour. In the afternoon, other classes take place, which may be taught as separate lessons or as one class based around a theme. This is sometimes called topic. Children usually have 3 breaks called playtime throughout the day. One in the morning, one at lunchtime, where students eat lunch and then play outside, and one in the afternoon. At some point in the day, most schools will also have assembly, where the whole school sit in the school hall and sing songs or hymns, and are spoken to as a group. Finally, some schools provide extra childcare for a couple of hours before or after school through breakfast and after-school clubs. Today, we have talked about primary schools in England. How did your first school differ from English primary schools? Did you learn anything you didn't know about school in England? Let me know in the comments.